Hello, everybody, and welcome back to On the Virg podcast, the truth in podcasting and the voice of Southern Oregon. Today is Friday, June 20th. All right, today we have some awesome guests with us. Well, we have an awesome guest with us, and then we have our normal guest with us today. So I'll get into that in just a second. But first, before we introduce our guests, I want to say thank you to Little Mill Media, who puts this broadcast on for us. They do a great job for us. And again, if you don't like my podcast, you can contact them. They were happy to put together a podcast for you. Twin Peaks Off-Road, my company, we've been a sponsor of this. I think we're on our 10th or 11th episode now. And Diamond Lake Mini Storage, who is our newest sponsor, and we'll have a little advertisement for them here in just a little bit. So with that, we've got a lot to talk about today. The Oregon State Legislature is kind of a clown show right now, so we'll have plenty to talk about with that. So anyway, let's start out by introducing my guest. And Trent, who are you?
I'm still Trent Drake. I am the Republican Douglas County Central Committee Republican Chair.
Cool. And to my left?
I'm Josh Frasier, a local business owner. I own Frasier's Barbershop, Army vet, raised in Oregon, whole life.
Awesome. Thanks for coming. And he also cuts my hair too, so he makes sure that we have the, what do you call it, the face of radio. Yeah, because it's not pretty to put in public, but Little Mill makes us look good, and Trent's still short. So
Yes.
So going back to, first off, our topic of the day is, again, today's June 20th, so we have 9 days left in Oregon for the legislature to continue on with the nonsense that we've been doing. And I should also introduce myself. I am Virgil Osborne, your House District 2 representative. So I've been on the floor every day in Salem, working on bills, laws, and other nonsense, and we are winding down. So you have 9 days left until you can mark yourself safe from new taxes. I'd like to tell you that they can't do anything in the next 9 days, but unfortunately, there's a lot of things they can do in the next 9 days, and they're really going to have to push it into. It's getting really tight. So my guess is we will probably end session before the 9 days. I think you'll probably see session end probably next Wednesday will be the last day. So we're hoping that by that, maybe some of the really bad bills didn't make it and they just clocked out. So we'll probably see them come back a little bit later. But anyway, we have a lot of stuff going on in the House. We'll discuss some of that today, but just a quick outline of what we're going to be talking about. We have House Bill 3838, which is long-term healthcare organizing, which is basically trying to unionize long-term healthcare employees. That bill's still active and alive on the House. It's not on the House floor right now, but hopefully we can kill that bill. The chances are, if we don't kill that bill, you're going to see the rates of long-term health care go up considerably. That affects me directly. My wife is in long-term health care, so we spend a fair amount of money every month. This could change things. Interestingly enough, the long-term health care people do not like this bill, but the unions, particularly some of the SEIU and some of the other ones, are really pushing for it. This whole session has been pretty much a union shellacking. We also still have House Bill 3076, which is the gun bill that hurts the federal firearms dealers, basically puts them out of business. Not necessarily constitutional, but it's still alive. We haven't seen that yet on the House floor, and hopefully we can run the clock out on that one too. And then Senate Bill 243, which is also still alive. I believe it had a work session or is scheduled for a work session. They've got very few days left to push that one through. That one just is an absolute assault on your Second Amendment rights, takes away your magazine capacities, allows districts to outlaw you from being in them with a gun, even if you have a concealed weapons permit. I mean, there's just nothing about Senate Bill 243 that's great. But we do have some support on the Democrat side, both on the Senate and the House, to potentially maybe kill that. And then also we have the transportation package, which is amazing. They waited till the last 9 days of session to come forward with the biggest tax bill in the history of Oregon. This bill will equal about a $15 billion tax increase over the, actually it's $15 billion in tax revenues over the course of the next 10 years if it does pass. Right now we're hearing from the Senate Democrats that they're not very pleased with it. They're not really supporting it. We also are I believe we are now completely locked up against it on the Republican side. So in the House, as all tax bills have to start, it may not get out of the House. So they need 36 votes to push that through. They have 35 of their own that they think they can get. they need a Republican to make it happen. I'm feeling pretty confident today that they may not have that. So we're hoping. Anyway, with that, we're going to talk about a lot more things, but I want to start out with thanking again Josh for coming to visit with us today. I'm excited to have Josh here because Josh is a veteran. I only met you just a couple years ago when you guys started cutting my hair, and now I stand in line for hours so I can get a haircut at your shop.
I'm trying to work that one over.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, you come to Roseburg and there's plenty of places you can get your haircut, but I see literally there's a line out the door, people waiting to get their haircut at your place. So obviously you're doing something right. And I always appreciate it. Your prices are fair. I mean, I just, I have no ever desire to go anywhere else. So you have to keep doing this as long as I keep getting my haircut, which hopefully is a long time.
So that's the plan.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself a little bit. So what do you do? I know you're a business owner.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, let's see. I got into barbering. It's been about 13, 14 years ago. My father is the former district attorney over in Coos County, Paul Frasier. Since I don't live in the county, I can admit to the relation. So, anyway, I thought about following him into law, and I was going to go job shadow him in court one day, and I went to get a haircut, and the old barber, Wayne Nelson, I'm getting my haircut. I got my haircut by him my whole life. And Frasier, what the hell are you doing with your life? And, well, I think I might follow my dad into law. Well, screw that. Get your barbering license. You'd be good at this. And I'll take that under advisement. And
Make some money.
yeah, well, I'll take that under advisement, Wayne. And then anyway, I went and job shadowed my dad on probably one of the worst days that you could go, which was court appearances, which was watching people put in pleas, sentencing, this, that, the other. And I figured out that a good bulk of law enforcement's job is just babysitting adults who haven't figured life out yet. And I was just, by lunchtime, I was like, nope, I'm not going to be able to do this. And Dad's all like, what'd you think of the job? I was like, I think I'm going to go be a barber, Dad. And so I've been doing that ever since. And so, yeah, I cut hair in Coquille for 4 years. And then my wife and we decided to move out to Salt Lake City. And I taught at a barber school out there. And then I cut hair in some higher-end barbershops. And then I got a wild hair and decided to join the Army National Guard. And
Oh, you did that after the fact.
yeah.
Oh,
And so I was 26 when I went in. I was Papa Smurf in basic training. I was the old man. And went to Fort Leonard Wood for basic training, and then out to Fort Sill for AIT. I was in artillery, specific target acquisition. And I went to the 65th Field Artillery Brigade out of Salt Lake City, and got orders to deploy in 2018. So we decided that we were to come back to Oregon. Before we did that, my wife graduated from Roseburg High School, so we decided to bring the family to Roseburg, got them settled in. I deployed, got back in 2019, and I'd cut enough hair off to the side and had a shoebox full of money, and that's what I used to start the barbershop with 6 years ago. And
Been here ever since.
yeah, I never expected it to blow up like it did. Quite honestly, I was just going to open up just a one-chair shop and just make enough to support my little family, and we managed to survive the pandemic, and then it just blew up from there.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have found you guys. Other than fighting off parking tickets from parking on the street, which we could do a whole show on Roseburg's parking problem downtown, but it would be probably boring for most. But where did you deploy to?
I went to Syria.
Oh wow!
Under Operation Inherent Resolve.
Okay.
So I was in. We provided artillery support for the Kurds and the Green Berets, and supported gun lines.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So is it a little dicey? I obviously I was never in the military, so I don't know what deploying into a combat zone really looks like, nor does most people. But so tell us about that.
Well, I mean, for the most part, it was pretty boring. We weren't in any kind of job that required us to go out, so pretty much just stuck on what you would call the forward operating bases. So yeah.
Put shells in the air where they're needed.
Yeah, we'd acquire targets and feed those over to the boys with the guns.
So, and thank you for your service. I want to ask a question about targeting. In the old days, the World War II days, I think targeting was they had their best coordinates and they wind it up and they shoot and lob.
Yeah.
Is that done GPS now or how's that?
Oh, goodness.
You might not be able to say that. I don't know.
I can't go into a lot of great detail, but
They don't seem to miss.
no, with the equipment that the military currently has, it's a bad day to go up against the U.S. It really is. It's hard. But it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
You can put stuff, within inches of something.
Backseat of a car at 5 miles.
Oh yeah, it's pretty amazing the operations that they run over there.
And honestly, it I'm thrilled that we have a good president now. That our military, when our military goes into harm's way, we have to have strong resolve. And like him or not, Trump has strong resolve, and I think his military commanders, Pete Hegseth as well. I think that those guys are, you just don't mess with them. It's like their mission; they're going to accomplish it.
Well, the two things I love about Trump is one, he wants peace.
Yeah.
But if he's got to swing the baseball bat, he'll absolutely do it.
Right.
And when we were over there, he took real good care of us. The rules of engagement were, get the mission done. Right.
Yeah.
Obviously don't commit any war crimes or anything like that. Follow the Geneva Conventions, but he was very pro-military in us being able to do our job, to defend ourselves, to defend civilians. And so we had a lot of success with him in leadership, and a lot of people over there didn't like to mess with us, knowing that he would drop the hammer if need be.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So you were serving under the Trump years, 2018, and now we're back into conflict with Trump, being the president again. I don't think it's, plus Israel, I wouldn't think it'd be a good time to be Iran right now. Or at least in the what's left of their leadership. I wouldn't think it'd be a great time to be part of that.
I'll say this: my experiences overseas, I'm not worried about Iran, not at all.
Yeah.
They're just
Well, that seems to be
fighting an uphill battle.
that seems to be the consensus amongst most. Don't you think, Trent?
I do. I think what's funny too is, the buzzword that Pete Hegseth uses is lethality. And what we're seeing is exactly what you said, is American weaponry against Soviet and Chinese weaponry and the difference thereof.
Yeah. And probably the older stuff. I think a lot of what Iran has, and you might know better than I do, but I think a lot of it's older technology, right?
I believe it is. I can't specifically speak to that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But
what amazes me is that when this conflict started, first off, I was in D.C. in October when the Hamas attacked Israel. And in D.C., they shut down the whole damn city, right? I mean, and I was actually at the Canadian Embassy. When I went into the Canadian Embassy, I was graduating from a class that I took. We took an Uber. When I got out, the streets were closed, so I had to walk like 6 blocks before I could, find some place to catch another Uber. But, I watched a lot of the footage of that what had happened on TV, and we have some inside connections. I heard about some of the stuff. It's not forgivable. I mean, I realize there's conflict between Hamas and Israel and has been for a long time, years. I mean, it's a lot of it's, Christianity and all those other things. But when you just literally attack civilians in their homes, I mean, shoot their dogs for heaven's sakes, and rape their wives and their daughters and stuff like that. I'm fully behind Israel eliminating the problem.
yeah, how do you deal with an enemy that is a zealot? Death doesn't bother them. They're willing to give their lives for their cause, no matter what it cost.
Yeah.
That attitude. Can you make peace with them? And I would love to. Let's make the peaceful ways work. But when you got an enemy that just doesn't want that, how do you deal with it?
You have to hit him back with the full force that you can. And honestly, I mean, just recently, of course, Fox News is Fox News. That's what I watch. CNN doesn't seem to work at my house. I don't know why. I turn it on and that channel's always blank. But, we have, I think, 3 aircraft carrier strike groups over there. Who knows how many submarines are off the coast there. I heard the F-22s are on their way. The B-2s are on their way. The F-35s are on their way. which, by the way, F-35s are coming to Klamath Falls. We've met with the military there. They're, I believe next year is when they're finally going to start operating out of Klamath Falls, which I'm pretty excited about. It's just overwhelming the amount of force that is being brought forward. And if I'm sitting there in Iran and most of my leadership was knocked out on day one, I would probably be thinking that maybe I should be talking to this Trump guy before somebody takes me out.
Yeah, when you get outside of the West, one of the things that you see in a lot of cultures is strength is what leads the way.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be able to make deals, you have to, not only show that you're strong, but every now and again, you got to occasionally flex those muscles,
Right.
and show that you're willing to go toe to toe. So you're taken seriously. You go over there and you try to give them a hug and be like, hey, let's be friends. That's not really going to work all that well.
Just till you leave.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I am definitely watching that scenario, and I'm hoping for the best. Let's go a little closer to home for a second. Drag queens on the house floor.
I saw that. The first I said that was on X or Twitter, and that popped up on my feed. And I'm like, no, that can't be real. Let's ask Virgil next time he's in for a haircut, which just popped in the next day.
Yeah.
You just about had a stroke when I asked you if it was real.
I know. I walk in the door and Josh looks. Was that for real? I'm like, yes, it was.
Now, we got to clarify.
Yeah.
The Republicans left the room.
We did leave the room.
They were not, they didn't stay for the show.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of things happened that morning. We knew it was coming, and I actually had posted on it the night before, letting everybody know we were going to be dealing with it the next day. So we had some options. The best option would have been to leave the building, right, and just let them have at whatever kind of perverseness they want to do. But the problem was they scheduled it, and I believe this was done on purpose. Chuck Mawhinney, I think was his name. He was one of the greatest known snipers in the Vietnam War. We were doing a memorial resolution for him, and they were scheduled. It was right after the drag queen show. So, after the rest of the drag queen presentation, which only lasted an hour and 25 minutes. Oh my God. And so his wife was coming in for that. And one of our representatives, Bobby Levy, was bringing his wife in, and that had all been scheduled. She had traveled here. He passed away. So to walk out would have been dishonoring one of our veterans. Right. And so we're all sitting there going, well, okay, we'll leave the floor for the nonsense. And to this day, I have never seen the show. I will not watch it. I refuse to go on X. I see where, you can click start, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it. Right. We went back to our offices. We came back afterwards because you have to punch in as in quorum. Otherwise, you're marked absent and you can't vote on anything. Some of us came back enough to allow quorum, and we all voted no on the bill. Now, there were a couple of Republicans that did stay. That's for another day, another discussion for another day. But here's my stance on it, and I would love to hear your guys' stance too. But my stance is this: I have no issues with drag queens, right? If you want to be a drag queen, for all intents and purposes, I don't care. You're a performer, and that's a cool thing. And if people want to pay to watch you perform, that's awesome. In the right place, right? I don't think drag queens reading storybooks in our schools is appropriate. And I don't think drag queens on our house floor doing that kind of pop and circumstance is also, I think it's inappropriate. I was on Lars Larson yesterday. Lars asked me the question, what are they thinking? And I said, well, this is my opinion. I believe that our Democrat Party in Oregon is trying to normalize this stuff. And I think if they can normalize it to the point where it's okay for drag queens to come into schools and teach, 6-year-olds, read stories to 6-year-olds while in drag, if they can normalize that, what is the ultimate normalization of this stuff? It's to do it on the House floor in front of all your lawmakers, right? And I believe they got that done. And so, fortunately, in my opinion, but unfortunately for them, we're the laughing stock of the whole damn country. And I mean, every news outlet, newspapers, everybody is just going, what is wrong with Oregon? And we look foolish. Now I've had people comment on my X and on my Facebook, oh, I can't believe it wasted taxpayer money. Well, it was an hour and 25 minutes waste of taxpayer money and time. It would only be monitored in time because they didn't get paid. And I feel a little sorry for those drag queens that came because I don't think they realized what they were getting into. I think this was done by Travis Nelson, our representative from Portland. I don't think he explained to them where this was going to go, and I don't think they're bad people. I think they got roped into something they didn't know what they were getting roped into. But anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on this thing. So please, speak freely. This is my podcast.
Well, I agree. I think there's a time and a place for everything, and the legislature is not a place for socialization or entertainment. They were, like for the sniper, those are things that are important, and to waste an hour of taxpayers' money, which you literally could. You could take every representative on the floor and break down their salary for an hour. That's a lot of money.
Not much, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, I'm just kidding.
It was $8.52.
Yeah, that's fine.
But still, you can't get that time back because, like you said, money's equated into time.
Yeah.
And it's just a total, that just shows you their mindset financially, what they think about the taxpaying public. Yeah. They don't care what they do with your dollar.
No, they're the majority party. They're going to push whatever they want. Sadly, we often have opening ceremony. In fact, earlier in the week and last week, we had a National Guard's, two different National Guard soloist singers came in at two different days. I can't remember the first song. I think one of them sang "God Bless America" as an opening ceremony. Fantastic, right? I mean, patriotic, made me feel good. I mean, it was some of the best ones. And we've had other cultural performers come in. There's a Vietnamese dragon performance thing that they've done actually in the last couple of years, and that's all fine. I think when you cross the line is when you get into, I don't believe that this drag queen thing is a culture. I think it's a choice. And again, I'm not against what they do. I think it's fine. I just think this was done to put the thumb in the nose of Republicans and basically say, hey, look, we're the bully in the room. We can do whatever we want. I got to ask you, Josh, what's your opinion?
Well, I own a local business. There's just a few things in my life I care about. I'm pretty simple, and that is I want to provide for my family, have a comfortable life. I don't need to be stinking rich or anything like that, just enough to be comfortable and happy and provide for my family. That's what I care about. And as a resident of Oregon and a taxpayer as well, the things I expect from my government would be to promote the things like good economy, allow people to have a good life, good education for my children, or freedom of transportation or movement, to be able to travel freely. For me, it's pretty simple. And so when I see something like that, I'm like, what is my government doing?
I know I was embarrassed to come into your shop.
I just want a simple life. That's it. But after surviving the pandemic and a lot of the restrictions we had to go under, I'm not too happy with how I've been treated by the state of Oregon.
Yeah.
And to have that, it just kind of dirt in the face.
Well, and it's hard to have trust for the government when the government's doing funky shit like that behind our back.
Well, when I was, with the shutdowns, my shop was specifically shut down for 7 weeks. That's the way it was for all barbershops, COVID, the restrictions and everything, those kind of services got shut down for a total of 7 weeks. And I was a few weeks into the shutdown, and there I am, breakfast. I got my Twitter account. It was Twitter then. And I'm following Oregon Health Authority, because they were the ones who were setting down the rules and wondering, when am I going to get to reopen? When am I going to get to reopen? And then I log in and I look at Oregon Health Authority, and they've got a guide up for safe sex during COVID. It's real. There's another thing about the state of Oregon.
Can't cut a hair. You can't give a haircut. But
and they even recommended that if you're going to perform oral on the anus, use a dental dam. But it's as simple as saran wrap. I'm sitting there, I can't cut hair, but they'll give advice on how people can go out and safely do all of that. And so, yeah, I did comment, well, hey, can I reopen my barbershop? I promise I won't eat anybody's ass while I do it. And it's stuff like that.
That's got to be one of those all-time favorites for this podcast. So
And then, I can't go down to my barbershop, open it up because, a haircut's not worth a life. Yet we had all the demonstrations going on up in Portland and Salem. Oh, well, we can't infringe on their right to protest. Well, what about my right to provide?
Yeah, and have a job and not be
This was my chosen business. I just sank all my money into opening this shop. And now, with how bad that the state of Oregon was set up to provide for that, it was a good thing I had some savings to keep everything together because the state did not come through.
Oh, no.
Not for us at all.
No, they did
We
not.
lost a lot of barbershops, a lot of businesses. And so, that
was
one that got under my skin.
that was before my time in the legislature. I know our local rep at the time was Dallas Hurd, and he really struggled with the whole thing. He did a very prominent protest on the House floor.
And considering this last election, a lot of people, well, how did this happen? How did Trump win? Well, for me
People are tired of the crap.
Well, as a business owner, I did not forget, nor did I forgive what happened during COVID.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and what happened to us there. And I think for a lot of people, they didn't forget that either.
Yeah.
Trump was president when everything came in, but it was Democrats and blue policies which directly affected me here in the state.
And still to this day. Hey, hang tight with us for just a second. We are going to take a break to acknowledge some of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with you.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
I want to thank one of our sponsors of this show, Diamond Lake Mini Storage. If you need a little extra space, I will always recommend Diamond Lake Mini Storage. They have 45 brand new units ranging from 50 to 250 square feet with a safe and secure and clean facility. But they're more than just a storage business. They proudly support our local community through 4-H, UAC, Meals on Wheels, and other great programs that make Roseburg stronger. Ask about their move-in specials and visit them on roseburgforrent.com. That's roseburgforrent.com, storage with heart right here at home. Welcome back to On the Verge podcast. And again, we left off talking a little bit about business in Oregon, and I think that's a great segue to something I want to discuss, and that is business in Oregon, how poor it is. We this week or last week, I guess, we heard Intel was about ready to lay off, I think, 20% of their staff. Dutch Brothers just moved out of the state which that's not new news, that was coming. But Dutch Brothers moved out of the state for their management. And then I want to say there was a couple of other large businesses that have started to move out. Frankly, if you watch and follow some of the stuff on the House floor that happens, I often comment about business and about how unbusiness friendly the state is. And, it affects all of us. I own a small business. All three of us here have small businesses. And it's difficult to pay the taxes, let alone deal with the red tape just to be able to operate a business in Oregon, and then all the rules you have to follow. So I don't know when that's going to change. I think the only way that can ever change is a change in leadership in Oregon. But how's it affected your business? I mean, we talk about COVID, but I mean, you have to pay your taxes. You have to do all that stuff too,
right?
Permits and what have you.
The barbershop is like one of the easiest business models out there. I mean, it's
nothing you do causes cancer. So yeah,
I don't think. I'm sure California thinks differently, but I mean, it's a pretty little easy business to run. So when things like, it's pretty, what do you call it? Pretty recession proof.
Yeah.
Like the only times I have been snatched bald-headed by the economy was the Affordable Health Care Act.
Oh yeah.
My insurance skyrocketed during all of that. Lost my insurance guy because he went out of business because of it. And the pandemic restrictions, those are the two times that I have been just snatched bald-headed. And when we were out in Salt Lake City, I was surprised. I went to file my taxes and the state gave me money back out in Utah. This has got to be wrong. Honey, did we file the taxes wrong? Why are they giving us money? Because working at Oregon, I never get money back.
Yeah, you always
I'm
pay.
always giving.
Yeah, same way.
Like-
How about your business, being an insurance agent? What do you think about business-friendly climate?
Obviously it's twofold. We're affected not only at the local and state, but we're affected nationally based off of catastrophic events. And I was in a meeting the other day with a group of insurance agents, and one of the things that we're seeing is our elderly population is struggling because of insurance. And there's a lot of them, they're just refusing to pay their insurance anymore, and they're just risking it driving without it. And that's sad that they can't create, this, and it starts at the state of Oregon, because the state of Oregon sets prices.
Yeah, the
but also,
insurance commissioner controls.
Yeah, but they also don't allow the insurance companies to manipulate their prices in order to keep them equalized.
Yeah.
And so they're becoming more and more group centered, so like 60 plus,
Yeah.
59 and down, and set 16 to 25, and it's really affecting the rates at all levels.
Speaking of insurance, a little bit of a segue into another topic I want to get into today was Senate Bill 83, which was the wildfire map repeal bill that was the Senate's version of the repeal, which is exactly the same, almost verbatim, as the House versions, which was 3944. I have tried to pull that to the House floor myself 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Representative Juncker tried to pull it to the floor once. I think we've tried to pull it to the floor 5 times. And the Democrats will not allow that to come back to the floor to be voted on, because 2 weeks ago, it's because they wanted to steal your kicker tax, right? And that was their plan. Now I've heard they've lightened up a little bit on the kicker, but they haven't figured out a way to fund it. We're probably going to give them a max of 5 more days in the House before we shut it down, and they still have not passed the repeal bill, which means that all of the folks in Douglas County and all the folks in Oregon that are in the wildfire zoning are still under the old wildfire mapping laws, which a lot of those folks believe that is the reason why their insurance went up. And I know you know better.
Yeah.
So, but it didn't help.
No, it doesn't help. The insurance companies have their own mapping system.
Yeah.
That's out there that they use. I believe, I can't swear to this, but they do look at those things.
Yeah.
But it's more on a national level versus an individual state level, I believe, because I've looked at some of the scoring that map does versus what we use.
Yeah.
And it is inherently different. However, I will tell you, if you get to Eugene North, the map, even for our brush scoring that we do, is inherently completely different than Eugene South. In Douglas County, you get 2 miles off of I-5, it gets increasingly difficult to insure a home, or I do a lot of agriculture, just because the scores they go from the moderate area of anywhere from 5 to 50, they run in the hundreds, and with a lot of companies today, if your brush score is over 60, 70,
They want to insure.
yeah. So it's created a secondary market, which is really expensive.
Yeah.
And again, for our local ranchers and farmers, it's just one more nail in the coffin, or they have to raise their prices to the point that we can't afford it.
I think there's going to be some relief for wildfire. We just passed a bill. It was a harvest bill that got out of the House. I think it's headed to the Senate. Harvest tax. And I think the timber companies were okay with it. I'm an anti-tax guy, so I voted no on it. I've always told the timber companies, if you guys absolutely need my vote to pass something, I will not be the reason it failed. But other than that, when it comes to taxes, unless you have a really, really good reason, I am a no, because I think we're struggling now.
Right.
I think, and we'll get into the transportation budget, but I think we're to the point where it's not far off where people are going to have to decide whether to eat or put fuel in their car, right? They're going to be to that point. It's like they can't go to work because they can't afford the gas to go to work. I mean, some people are there already.
Yeah.
And the state's just pushing them that way. And I almost wonder sometimes if the state's not doing it on purpose. Like maybe if they can control, everybody by the pocketbook, those things don't generally end well for the party that did it.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. Let's talk a little bit about the transportation package, because that is the next thing That is the hot topic. We are sitting here on June 20th. June 29th is constitutional sine die for the legislature, so they have to end by next Sunday. They're saying they want to end by Wednesday, and I believe the Senate is demanding, at least Senate Republicans are saying, if you're not done by Wednesday, good luck to you because we're gone. So House is right behind them. Transportation package, I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's been floated around out there. It is literally $2 billion, $15 billion over the course of over the next 10 years. Raises your gas tax. Some versions of it raise your gas tax as high as 80 cents a gallon over the next 5 years. It increases your payroll tax. It increases. There's a mileage tax. There's a road use tax. There's a registration tax increase. Some as much as 150%. This is getting into the territory where I say we're about ready to make it unaffordable to live in Oregon.
Yeah. You're telling California, hold my beer.
Yeah. We literally will pass California as the most expensive state in the nation to drive a car.
Right.
I am just beside myself. I don't think that the Democrats want to vote for this either.
Right.
This includes tolling. They will start tolling Interstate 5. I just kind of looking for opinions and you guys as local business people. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, Josh?
Well, I'm a simpleton in that I love my freedom of movement. That's one of the great things about being an American is going and hopping in your car and going for a road trip.
Right.
Yeah, and we live in such a beautiful state.
Yeah.
There's so much to see here, and to go to the fuel pump, and they got those stickers that break down your taxes and everything. Like, oof, a good chunk of my gallon of gas is going towards the state.
Yeah.
And to hear that it's going to skyrocket even more, it's irritating to me. What it tells me, again, I'm just a simple guy, but what it tells me is they don't care all that much about how well I can move around affordably. It's now getting to the point, oh, you want to go and see the great state of Oregon? Well, you better be able to afford that.
Ride a bike.
Yeah. So
Or take your electric bus to Diamond Lake.
it seems to tell, people in the lower economic classes that, hey, big whoop,
Yeah. That's
figure it out.
That's what I'm afraid of. And when you say that lower economic class, that's Douglas County. That's rural Oregon. I mean, we're farmers, ranchers, loggers. We're not IT people. We're not folks that are making $300,000 a year and live in $1 million house. And that's where, that's my job, right? I go to Salem to fight for the folks that live here in this county. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. We all got to suffer, right?
Yeah.
So that is really my stump. And Trent's heard me say it 1,000 times. In Douglas County, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or to me, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. Now, if you hate me because you're a Democrat, that's your prerogative, and good luck to you. I mean, right? If you don't want my help, that's fine. And I've had that conversation with a few of them. The fact is, I don't pass laws that hurt Democrats.
Right.
Because it's the people in my district that I'm concerned about.
Right.
And a lot of folks are Democrats. I mean, Democrats shoot guns, right? Yeah. I mean, they do all the same stuff that I do in this county. We actually hunt and fish, and we'll talk about fishing too. That's a whole nother issue that's coming up. But these are things that, in my opinion, just far exceed the drag queen shows.
Yeah. Well, like yesterday, it was the first time I've been in your shop, and our headquarters is right next door.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And, I was admiring the walk-ins welcome. I love that. I'm a walk-in fan. Yeah. Anyways, went in the shop there, busy shop, people wait in line. It was kind of cool because I knew a few of the people in there, but you had, 3 other guys?
Yeah, I got 3 other
everybody was busy. That's the antithesis of what drives an economic engine in a community. Yeah. And if you kill that, the community dies. If you take away the small business that you're helping others provide for their family.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my shop and that it's able to, help others survive. My big thing has always been keeping my prices reasonable. My grandparents, they live here in the area, so I know what it's like for an older couple who's on, a strapped income.
Right.
And, so I do everything I can to at least make it to the point where people can afford something as simple as a haircut.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Yeah, well, and people deserve that. It's just a basic thing. I didn't realize the impact that a haircut had
on an individual until I went overseas.
Yeah.
And then I got to these fobs out there. And here you got these soldiers and Marines who have been sleeping in the dirt and they've been buzzing each other's heads, or it's just all these effed up fades, and I couldn't take it. And so I set up a little shop and I started cutting everybody's hair, giving them good haircuts, and just to see the look on these service members' faces over something as simple as a haircut that they hadn't had in a couple, 3 months, you know, out there. And so that really hit me. I'm like, wow, it's something as little as that. And that's been one of my biggest motivators to keep them affordable, so people can get the haircut. Right. You've got families that have got, you know, 4 or 5 boys in them and everything, you know, and it can be easy, you know, to spend over $100 on haircuts just to get your boys done and everything. And I try to keep that down there so everybody could afford to just get that haircut. And that was what was so heartbreaking to me about the pandemic, and seeing signs like a haircut's not worth a life. You know, it was just because I knew what kind of bump to the self-esteem it could bring just to get that. And my Facebook was full of pictures of moms trying to cut their kids' hair. How do I fix this? How do I fix this? You can't salvage that. Buzz the poor kid. I'm sorry. No,
That's literally what I've told every barber that's ever cut my hair. It's like, you can't really mess up because it all grows back. Just
I grew up, my grandma cut my hair with a bowl, so yeah, I agree.
Well, one of the things, change subject a little bit, one of the things that makes this community so awesome is our outdoor sports, right? Our hunting, our fishing, our hiking. We have Diamond Lake, we have the coast, we have literally, even though I was reminded that Crater Lake is not in Douglas County, the Crater Lake Park boundary is, I think, right outside of Diamond Lake. And so we just have such a beautiful area. We have waterfalls, the North Umpqua River, the South Umpqua River. Recently, we have had an issue with the fish population. And I know you're into fishing. All right? Some of your barbers are too.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a meeting with ODF&W. This was Friday. They had the hearing in Pendleton last Friday. Prior to that, on Tuesday, myself, Senator Brock Smith, Boomer Wright, and Senator Dick Anderson had a meeting with ODF&W, and we talked about what they were. So we met with ODF&W. ODF&W makes the recommendation to the board. The board decides what they want to do with the information. And at that time, ODF&W had made their decision. They were going to shut the season down for the was it the spring Chinook?
Fall.
I think it was a fall Chinook.
Fall Chinook on the Umpqua.
They were going to shut it down, and so that's why we called the meeting. And this all happened, I guess, somewhat behind the scenes, but it happened, and our intention was, and my intention was, and I got to do most of the speaking, so we cannot do that to our fishing guides, right?
No.
We have to give them a reason to still have a business, and we need our gas stations, our hotels, bed and breakfasts, all that stuff need to exist. We start shutting seasons down on the Umpqua, they're really gonna hurt. And they're like, well, yeah, we understand, but the return. At the time, I think their numbers were, don't quote me on this, I think it was 1,300 fish returned. They needed 3,500 minimum to keep the season open. 1,700 plus were caught the year prior. And so they're afraid that if they allow fishing as usual with a take of roughly 1,700, that we would lose the population for that, that run. And frankly, the guides are that good, right? I mean, they fish these rivers so much, they know where the fish are and they know how to catch them, and their accuracy is quite well. So I made a recommendation to ODF&W during that meeting that rather than shut the season down, why don't you guys think about doing what you do on the Columbia, which is if you ever fish for sturgeon up there, they open it like a day here, a day there, whatever. I said, just open the season in on the Umpqua for, I don't know, 2 days a week, or 3 days a week, whatever it may be. And then they kind of came back and said, well, we hadn't really thought of that. That might be a little bit hard to manage. I said, well, I don't know how it's any harder to manage than the Columbia. It's a lot bigger river system. When they open sturgeon fishing, it's crazy. And they're like, well, we may still have to, limit the take. And I said, well, limit the take. When we hit the quota's over, and everybody starts fishing for bass. But so I don't want to take total credit for the idea, but that was my idea. And they ended up coming back with, I think the take was maximum 500, I think is what it was. And yeah, and I think they're open like 2 or 3 days a week. Now, I didn't just get there in a vacuum. I talked to one of the guides and I said, I need input. This is what I think, and I want to hear what the guides think. And all the guides, I think he talked like 20 of them, and you've talked to several too, and they all came back to me and said, this is what we want. And I'm going, it makes sense to me. Thank God they adopted that in Pendleton. But I've heard mixed opinions on the whole thing, and since I know you're, being a barber, you talk to a lot of fishermen. I know you do too. But I've heard everything from mismanagement, and we'll get into a little bit more of that discussion too. But what's your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, I'm going back to the economy. They make this idea of, well, we'll just shut this all down. And yeah, I have several guides who come into the shop, and well, yeah, there were some heart palpitations going on over that.
Right.
And quite a few of the guides too are also vets as well. Like, I get along really well with a lot of them because they're, Marine Corps vets, Army vets, and it's something they do that they've gotten into as a way to provide for their families as well. It's also, bad day of fishing is better than no pressure. And I mean, I go out with one guide and it's great. Show up, he takes care of the boat, hop in, and he just hands me a pole, casts it over there, and it's wonderful. He knows everything about it, and it's always nice to just get out there on the river where it's quiet, kind of just break away from the hustle and bustle of life. It's a very, very peaceful thing, in my opinion, and a wonderful service that they provide. And
just to shut them down would be and shutting them down means they're going to move to a different river and put more pressure on that river as well. So I mean, there's all kinds of bad that goes with that. But I know you've spoke to a lot of guides. What are you getting?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. They were just glad that they kept it open. I'm an avid fall Chinook fisherman. I have been for years. My dad and I did it for years. I have a North River V sled. I'm on the river usually late August, early September, and we used to fish the coquille. And this is the very thing that happened with the coquille. They shut it down from the ocean or from the 101 bridge up, and then they just shut it down, and it's never reopened. And now there's talk supposedly in the next couple of years it's going to supposedly, but once that river shut down, the chances of getting it opened back up are really slim.
Very slim.
Even if there is a hatchery program going or whatever, and we can't do that. You can't take away. We need to go back, which was making the Umpqua River system, the Coos River, the Coquille River, the Silettes, the premier fisheries of the United States.
Yeah.
We got to go back to the hatchery system. We got to get rid of this whole concept of hatchery fish, native fish, or actually the term they're using now is wild.
It's a fish.
Yeah, the last fish I caught had a collar on it and a little jingle bell. No, that isn't what happened. They're all wild. And they, and the argument was, well, I can taste the difference. No, you can't.
You can't.
And I would argue that with anybody.
Maybe right out of the hatchery you might be able to, but I don't. By the time they're in the ocean, I don't think they're eating dog food anymore.
Yeah, so it's the same way. I had a buddy that just came back from Alaska, and the premier river up there was the
Kenai.
The Kenai.
Yeah.
You're down to one fish ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of one and done. And that used to be, I heard guys going up there saying the Chinook were so thick, but what happened is their hatchery system went down. Offshore fishing, of course, from foreign countries are a big thing. So there's a lot of components there, and they don't want to deal with it.
So one of the cool things about being in the legislature is that when you actually talk to bureaucracies, they have to listen to you, right? I mean, they claim to listen to the public, but the reality of it is they either listen to us or we don't pass their budget and they go out of business, right? I mean, so the second part of that call, we talked about, I brought it up. They didn't want to talk about it. I brought it up. Why is the fish population hurting? And that was the question I asked. And of course, it was funny because I was expecting an answer and I didn't get the one I was expecting. So I explained to them exactly why it is. I said, you guys have a horrible issue with smallmouth bass and you're not doing a damn thing about it. The river is completely full of bass and they're eating all the fish as they're trying to make it back, right? And then I said, and on top of that, you have a problem with the water temperature. And it's not about global warming. That's bullshit, frankly. The reason the water temperature in the Umpqua has gone up is because of the Arch Creek fire. And that's what I told him. Like, well, you got a good point there. I said, yeah, how much? So I asked the biologist who was on the phone. I said, well, what is the difference in the water temperature at Rock Creek? It's up 2 degrees. And that causes the bass population to go farther up the river because they thrive in warmer waters, but it also causes bacteria growth, and the fish at the hatcheries don't do well with that. Right. And I go, and that is 100% on the Forest Service because they won't replant. They won't take care of the damage from the fire. And I go, you guys need to, this is just as much of a reason, like when you get sued for the spotted owl, this is just as much a reason you should be suing the other direction, right? Because you're killing our fish populations. And we're not done with that conversation because between the Senate and the representatives, we're gonna make them stick with that conversation. And by the end of it, they were in agreement with us. But I went farther than that. I said, you also have another issue. That is, you have the seals parked right off the coast. And I said, I was on the Rogue last year. I was 14 miles up the Rogue River, and there was a seal sitting on a rock.
Multiple.
Yeah.
I was just there.
I know. And I go, that is a problem. They're eating the fish, the grown fish. They're eating them. And I said, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. Well, they're federally protected, and we did do something on the Columbia that actually, allowed us to take. I said, then why are you not doing it now on the Umpqua, on the Rogue? What are you waiting for? Well, the biologist's like, yeah, we need to really move that direction. I said, yeah, about 20 years ago you needed to, and you need to do it now. So we're gonna start sticking them with that too. Then there's the folks that want to lay the blame on the dam, right? Especially here, Winchester Dam. I've been to the Soda Springs Dam. I've seen the coho in the pools up there. There's thousands of them. They didn't just fly over the dam to get there. I mean, they are thriving up there. Well, they could thrive in the whole river, but I don't know. Taking the dam out, I mean, that's for another show.
It keeps the bass from going up the river.
I think it slows them down for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's for another show. But there are just a number of issues that are causing this. And until we start dealing with the predators, I don't think our fish. We're never going to get it back. And we got to quit being these poor me environmentalists that we don't want to kill the seals because they're cute, and we don't want to, anyway, there was ways they could take out a lot of the bass with some electro fishing, but it would be thousands and thousands of dollars in years, right? Yeah. By the time they get it done. So I encourage everybody to fish for bass.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not bad eating this time of year either.
Yeah, and you don't have to even eat them. If you don't want to eat them, throw them on a bank. I mean, put them in your garden.
Yeah.
But I mean, we need to have, and we encourage bass tournaments. I want to say the take on bass is not limited, but it is. I could be wrong.
Don't.
It's unlimited.
Yeah,
it's unlimited. Yeah.
It's unlimited, yeah.
So take all you want.
Yeah. There was a issue. I just read this on the Mississippi. A invasive whitefish had started to move up the river, taken away from a lot of the sport catfishing and stuff up there. And a TV chef found out that these fish over in the Middle East were like really sought after. So they started going to restaurants, and now that's become a thing in a fishery, and it's reduced the population really big because now it's become something, a new thing. So it's become an economic thing, and it's actually brought the sport catfishing back, like significant, and it did it in a short period of time.
Well, and I even, when some of the guides I talked to, there was a suggestion, some of them can switch over and fish bass. They don't have to always fish for certain species or whatever. But the other thing that really was disheartening was they were really talking about from the 101 bridge down and shutting everything else down. And I think at the time when I'm like, do you guys not understand that a lot of our guides don't fish down there? They're fishing from Amaker Park down, right?
Right.
And I just don't think they even thought about that.
Well, not that. Once a Chinook enters the river system and they stop holding, meaning the water gets to a certain temperature, usually it's below 60 degrees, 58, they seem to move really quickly.
Yeah.
They don't hang around. No. They go from Coos Bay to over the dam in 2 days.
Yeah.
They're here and then they're gone.
And then they're gone, yeah.
So it's not something that would be a sustainable fishery. You would be hit and miss one day or the other.
Yeah. Well, listen, we are out of time. This conversation was awesome.
Yeah.
But it went too darn fast. Josh, I hope we can get you back on.
Yeah.
In fact, since you're dropped so close, we can make you a regular if you want to come in once in a while. And love having the conversation with you. And Trent, as always, thank you. And
it was a good day.
So real quick, again, before we leave, I want to thank Little Mill Media again. They're the ones behind the scenes, and I'm hoping I can get Justin to take a picture of us so I can advertise before we get up. But also Twin Peaks Off-Road, my company, and Diamond Lake Mini Storage. Again, all of those companies have come together to help put this voice of the people, into action. And we're going to keep doing this. We're going to try to do it weekly. At some point, hopefully, we'll have the ability to call in, ask questions. But I think it's really important that the public know what's going on in the legislature. I think it's important that they know what this will always be the truth and talk, right? We're not going to beat around the bush. We may not go all the way into the weeds. Sometimes we get into the weeds a little bit, but this is the truth and talk. And so, again, if you don't want to hear the truth, Little Mill Media has this awesome production. They can do your podcast for you, and I encourage everybody to contact them. And not watch mine, or you can watch mine and hear the truth and what's really going on in Southern Oregon, and we will continue to bring that to you. And again, thank you to both my guests, and we will see you next week. Thank you.